I don't condone being brutal to yourself either, but I take your point. He introduced himself and shook their hands. He had a very firm handshake, which Mari registered with surprise and a flicker of appreciation. Shaking hands with men her own age was usually a limp, dead fish experience. Elisabeth asked Jack if he was an academic, and he made a wry expression with his mouth and said, "For my sins." "Which department?" "History, actually. I supervised a few people graduating tonight, so..." "Sorry. This isn't very interesting, is it? I suppose historians have a reputation for being boring." "Oh no," said Elisabeth. She was using what Mari recognized as her social voice, the voice she used to flatter people and draw them in. "History's fascinating. Not enough people care about history, don't you think?" Jack looked pleased. Clearly that was exactly what he thought. Mari picked up a glass of champagne and let her gaze drift away, over the crowd of iron shirts and silk blouses. Polite smiles, no teeth. Her dress felt scratchy against her skin. She could tell that Jack was making an effort to include her in the conversation, and she answered his questions dutifully. Yes, she was here for Elisabeth's graduation. No, not her own. She had a degree in anthropology and was putting it to good use by working part-time in admin. "Pretty unimpressive," she said, using the light tone she'd developed for conversations about her future. "At least Elisabeth has her master's. I don't know what my excuse is." "I wouldn't put it that way," Jack said mildly. "Seems perfectly normal for someone your age." Mari tried not to show her surprise. Usually, if she mentioned her lack of career prospects to an adult, they took it as an opportunity to dispense unsolicited and often terrible advice. Elisabeth's parents had suggested that she simply call the museum, explain her qualifications, and ask for a job. She sipped her champagne and met Jack's eye. He wasn't smiling, but his lips looked loose and ready to smile. "That's nice of you," she said. "I do aspire to be perfectly normal." He did smile then. He had a nice face, Mari thought, although he was wearing the kind of squarish, black-framed glasses that older men wore in an effort to look young. "Well, anyway," he said, "when you're in the death grip of a so-called real job, you'll wonder what all the fuss was about. Take it from me." "Do you fantasize about long-term unemployment?" He laughed, and Mari saw the phantom flash of a gold tooth in the back of his mouth. "More often than I'd like to admit." Elisabeth said that she didn't mind working, and there would always be a need for people to make coffee. But they should be paid as much as academics, or maybe the other way around. "It's the emotional part that's difficult," she said, "having to put on a different personality at work. People expect you to be servile." "Plenty of that in academia too," Jack said. "Anyway, I think we all put on different personalities at work. It's part of what makes wage labour alienating." Elisabeth just smiled. As a rule, Mari knew she refused to be impressed by jargon. The conversation moved on to the general encroachment of neoliberalism into higher education, a topic that Mari had read about online but never considered in any depth. Elisabeth probably had real opinions on it, but she stayed quiet while Mari talked. Jack nodded at everything she said. History was out of fashion in universities, he told them, especially his kind of history. He said it like that, as though he owned the history of communist thought in Italy during the early 20th century. "That's broadly speaking, of course," he said, with the air of someone getting into his stride. "More specifically, I've spent most of my life writing about a heterodox Italian Marxist called Antonio Gramsci. Pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will," Mari said. She didn't know what made her say it. She'd never read Gramsci, had just seen the quote on the internet. Jack looked at her curiously, and she felt a lift of pleasure. She wasn't quite sure what she would say if he asked her any questions about Gramsci's work. He didn't. Instead, he smiled, turned to Elisabeth and said, "Well, speaking of optimism, listen, Elisabeth, here's my card. Give me a call if you ever want to discuss history. Or philosophy. The life of the mind, anything really. I'm always up for learning something new." He handed her a business card and nodded to them. "It was nice to meet you both. Enjoy the rest of your evening." When he'd gone, Mari looked at Elisabeth and rolled her eyes. She didn't know exactly what she was rolling her eyes about, and Elisabeth didn't roll her eyes back, which left Mari